welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Peterson. Today is a great day. It is a beautiful sunny day in Arizona, like almost every Arizona day is, my friends. And I'm living my sunsets and palm trees, cash flow life. I'm so energized. I've got so many great things happening. And just stay tuned to this episode and all these upcoming episodes, because I'm going to share with you some of the things that we're up to and what we're doing. And I'm just telling you right now, it is exciting. It's neat to see growth and to get invigorated and to be living your best life. And I can only tell you how fun that is and how exciting it is to just grow and do amazing things. So today's episode is going to be, I've got a great guest. He's going to share, if you've ever had what I call golden handcuffs, okay? We know what that is, by the way, okay? When you have a job that's probably too damn good, making you really good money, and then you look, but here's what happens a lot of times. When those jobs, they're jobs, by the way, even if you own your job, eventually you get to a point where you start thinking about this other thing called cash flow. And I'm telling you, it is a very provocative word. It makes you start to think about things differently. And that's what happened to my friend Darin. Darin Batchelder is a great interview. This is a good story of how he came from kind of the finance world in doing loans and packaging, more corporate stuff, and how he still found his way into multifamily. So it really doesn't matter where you're at. You can be stone broke. You can be making great income. But either way you go, it doesn't matter. Cash flow is still king. Real estate, owning of real estate is the one thing that I believe unites us all. That passion for legacy wealth, to be building something not just that's here for today, but will be here tomorrow for our future. It is the thing that matters. So pay attention to this podcast, this episode. Be on the lookout for all the new stuff coming up. And before we start, though, a word from our sponsors.
At Kahuna Investments, we partner with passive investors to create award-winning communities families love to call home. If you want to learn more about our company and our process, go to www.kahunainvestments.com and click the deal room.
All right, guys, we're back. Let's get right to it. Let's get Darin on the show. Here we go. Hey, Darin, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Corey, I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so you've got a really unique story of how you came from really corporate world trading company to multifamily, and I would love for you to open up kind of that journey, because it's a pretty crazy story and pretty unique in the business. You operate at a very high level in corporate America, and to come into this thing called multifamily. So I'd love to kind of open that thing up.
Absolutely. So I've been in the loan trading business since 2002. I was with a large Dutch bank, ABN AMRO. And at the time they were, a top 20 worldwide bank from 2002 to 2006, which was the last big run up in real estate, right? And I was on their mortgage capital markets desk, trading large portfolios of residential loans directly to other banks and also multifamily loans. So I got to know the asset class, multifamily asset class, very well. 2007, I went and started my own business, still have that business, and focused on residential, multifamily, and commercial real estate loans. Again, all trading bank to bank type deals, clean credit quality performing loans. And about 3 years ago, I've been wanting to get involved in actually purchasing assets for a long time. And I just put it off as I was growing my business. And I finally just, said I'm going to do it. And that was 2017. I went and bought a duplex, new construction duplex. And I knew that was once I signed the contract, it was going to take me forever to build any wealth. So I went for a way to go bigger. I joined a multifamily mentorship group here in Dallas, and I've been off to the races.
And so it looks like now you started investing. So kind of back up for just for a minute. So
sure.
I love this part because I think this is how a lot of wealth is created. You start with a company, you learn all their secrets, and then the smart people go out and create their own company.
Yeah. So, a couple things happened. I loved where I worked. I think the man upstairs, I was selling what people were buying. It was a great market, but I also saw the writing on the wall that it was going to end at some point.
Yep.
And so one of the things I did do, which I think was a positive, was that my wife wanted the larger house. We were making really good money. And I told her, no, I'm just going to sock it away. And when this thing ends, it will end at some point. When it ends, I don't want to ever work for somebody again. I want to start my own company. I don't know what that'll be, but so I kept socking money away. And so that helped me, because when I decided to leave the bank, the market had already started to turn. If you ask most people, when was the Great Recession? Most people say, 2008, 2009. I saw it in 2006 because I was in the space. We were selling large portfolios of residential, clean credit quality performing loans. And our biggest competitors were Countrywide and Washington Mutual and Wells Fargo. But Countrywide and Washington Mutual, they really went down the credit spectrum. So they started to originate a lot of these no doc loans, stated income loans. And ABN AMRO wasn't willing to do that. So what happened was our market share started to deteriorate. We were getting less and less of the origination because Countrywide and Washington Mutual were making it so easy for people to write.
They were giving loans to everybody.
Exactly. So at that point, I saw that things were going to change. And then I kind of took 6 months off and got my handicap down and then decided to go into business for myself.
The reason I wanted to bring that up, because sometimes, in the creation of business and wealth and how it transitions, because I always feel like business owners, that entrepreneurship is where wealth is at, whether it's in real estate or in another business or systems. That's where true wealth can be generated. You can make a good income, but to really level up and play the bigger game, I think it always starts with getting on the other side, being in that B quadrant. And what's funny is, so that's where you got in, and then you said, hey, I think I want to start investing some of my money and learning the game, kind of something different, which is real estate. And you started with DUPLEX and realized, gosh dang, this is a lot of work for 2 doors.
Right, exactly.
And then the other part is that you took the time and realized that you needed more education.
Absolutely. So, before we delve into the real estate side, if you wouldn't mind if I just share a couple things back from kind of starting the company, moving away from corporate world and starting my own company. I learned a number of different things. One, I was part of a pretty nice golf club I was living in South Florida at the time. I've been in the Dallas area for now about 11 years, but I was down there for 14 years and originally from Connecticut, East Coast. But when I joined the golf club, I expected to meet a ton of C-level executives at these big, high-flying, public companies. And it wasn't that. It was independent business owners. So it was a guy who owned a security badge company, a guy who owned a lighting company, a guy who owned MRI facilities. It was all these little niche type, businesses, independent business owners. And the reason why I realized was because they had time. They had time and they had money. They had other people that were managing their business, but they were the business owners, so they were achieving the wealth.
Yeah.
So that was a great lesson for me to learn just from being a part of a golf club. Secondly, a lot of people ask me like, "Hey, Darin, what was the hardest part about starting your own business?" And I say it was signing the lease to my office. And people are like, "What, man? That." Was it an expensive lease? Was it a long term? What's the big deal? And I was like, no, it was once I signed that lease, I had to tell my friends, my family, my ex-colleagues that I'm in business, that I'm hanging up the shingle. And there is so much fear inside your own head about what are people going to think? And what if I fail? Right. And that decision can be paralyzing. And I see that with so many different people. And that goes for starting your own business. It also goes for the real estate side, which we're going to talk about. But, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you, if you have that in your gut, you have to get past that fear and take that step. You got to take that step.
Yeah, because it really does matter. Once you jump into it, it's really not as scary as you think. I think we make these big monsters in our head.
Exactly.
And sometimes you're like, wait, hold on. If I, what's my rent? Okay, well, I can figure that out, right? It's not as big. It's not the whole lease. It's just that month, right? Take care of that month.
Absolutely. And what I found out is once I was in the office and I started calling on customers, I was like, all the profit comes to me instead of like I was working for a large company and I got my commission, right? But it was a much smaller percentage.
It's a much smaller slice, huh?
Right, exactly. Much smaller slice. And the rest of it was going towards to the company. So yeah, I mean, you learn it once you get on the other side, but a lot of people have a hard time, just taking that leap of faith.
Do you feel like those lessons that you learned as operating your own business, how has that helped you in your multifamily pursuit?
Yeah. So I think that one, just anytime you take any kind of action when you're still scared, I think that you deposit that in your mind someplace and you can pull that for the next time you're scared. So look, I had started my own business. I grew the business. I had flexibility in my time. I was a coach for my son in baseball and my daughter in softball. And it really was a blessing. But when it came to buying the duplex, look, I had capital, man. I was like 47 years old. I had money, but I was still scared because I had never purchased real estate before. And, it's still a sizable transaction, no matter what, when the deposit and what can go wrong. People focus more on what can go wrong than what can go right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes with experience, right? So as you start to get more and more deals under your belt and different sizes and even bigger ones, for me, like I remember when I did my first deal was $3 million, right? And I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of money.
Right.
And I raised $1 million, $1.2 million or something. And now I look at that, it's all relative, right? Because now we're buying a $20 million deal.
Yeah.
And $24 million, and the raise is like $9.5 million. And so
exactly,
it's all relative, right? So but you get on your journey, and as you get more familiar with it, and so when you went and got education, and then what kind of happened next? How did you go from and just go be a GP in a deal, or did you kind of invest in deals? How did you get your journey started?
It was probably October 2017. I signed the contract on that duplex. It was going to take a year to build. December of 2017, I joined a multifamily mentorship group here in Dallas. January, I started to invest passively. And so I was seeking out other experienced sponsors, would meet with them, build a relationship and start investing in those deals. At the same time, I was out looking for deals as a GP. I knew, my goal was to be a GP and I wanted to syndicate. So I remember, it was probably April of 2018, March or April, when I put in my first offer. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I just put the offer in. She's like, you excited? I'm like, no, I'm scared shitless. I'm like, she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what if they accept it? Like,
What if they say yes?
Right. What if they say yes? Like, I don't know if I'm ready. And that deal was like, I want to say that was like a $4 million deal, like 60 some odd units. And then I just kept underwriting, kept going on property tours. And then, after you underwrite enough deals that don't even come close from the number standpoint, all of a sudden when a good one comes along, boom, the next deal I put an offer on was a $9 million deal. And I put in full boat offer trying to get that. And I didn't get it, but I wasn't scared anymore because I had underwritten so many deals that, it gave me the confidence. It also gave me a little bit of the confidence that the first deal traded away from me. It made me feel like, all right, there's other people that are willing to pay more. And,
but you were close. You're like, man, I'm getting closer.
Yeah, exactly.
Each rung was like, okay, from the first part is, I'm scared just to even put in my first offer.
Correct.
To, wait, now I'm in I'm competing, I'm losing, but I'm getting closer.
Exactly. The next day, wow, I'm in best and final. I remember this like, oh yeah, it felt really good. Right. And then after a while, you're like, okay, it doesn't matter.
When am I going to win one?
It doesn't matter if you're second or if you're 10th. If you don't win it, you don't win it. And I was investing passively all the way through. I think I invested in 7 or 8 deals throughout that year. And then September of that year, I was awarded my first syndicated GP.
Okay,
lead
that's almost
sponsor
a
deal.
year. So you almost went 9 to 10 months.
Yeah, 9 months, and then we didn't close it till December. So it was a year start to finish from joining the multifamily mentorship group to close the first deal.
I love that. So that's because I think that's very real world.
Yeah.
Some people get into this game and they say, "Oh God, I'm going to get a deal tomorrow," or they don't get enough right training that they think everything is a deal.
Right.
Right. And the trick is to understand what a real deal looks like. Right. And so as you started to underwrite all those deals, how did you know that the deal that you had was a deal?
So the underwriting that we have, like so many deals, would come out just so far off. I wouldn't even go. If I was to a point where I wasn't there yet, but I could see a return, I would start going to look at the deal and go on property tours, because all of a sudden you learn more when you go on a property tour, and you may learn something that you couldn't see from the OM.
You're probably meeting brokers there too, right?
Yeah. So, and that's an interesting story on how I got my first deal from the broker side. The deal before I got my first deal, I was going after a deal hard in South Dallas. And on the property tour, I was meeting with a broker who I had not met before, but we clicked, and he was trying to help me get the deal. I felt like, and I came runner up on that deal. Somebody outbid me by like $300,000 or $400,000, but that deal was a 76 unit deal in South Dallas. I was going hard at it, and I was the high bid in our multifamily mentorship group, but somebody outside the state outbid me. This is the interesting part, is he ended up calling me and saying, "Hey, Darin, I got this other deal south of Fort Worth in Crowley. You should go take a look at it."
You got the off market.
No, it was a marketed deal. Okay. So it was a marketed deal, but he said, "What? I think you should go take a look at this." So I went and drove it, and I didn't really know that sub-market, and it wasn't that well maintained. I was like, I called him, left him a voicemail. "Hey man, I did a drive-by. I'm going to pass." So here's where it gets interesting, is he calls me 3 days later and he says, "Hey, Darin, you really need to meet me at the property." And I said, "Look, you're going to have to sell me on why." And he said, "Do you know what the median household income is in Crowley?" I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "It's 60,000. I had been chasing all these deals in Fort Worth and South Dallas that were median household income of like 35.
Right.
So that shows you that there's more money for higher rents. Secondly, he's like, "Look, Darin, this deal is a 1983 construction. They're all townhome units. There's nobody living upstairs. There's high ceilings, all individual ACs and hot water heaters. And a lot of deals I was looking at were boilers and chillers,
yeah, right?
And 60s and 70s property. So, I'll come down and meet you, right?" And so I met him at the property. I went into the unit, and I was like, wow. Look, it was like original appliances and flooring. It was not nice.
You're seeing all of a sudden a picture, huh?
Now all of a sudden, but the ceilings were higher, and I'm like, wow, if I put in new flooring, new appliances, I'd much rather live here than live with somebody else right above me. And so I was like, thank you for bringing me down here. Now I'm sold on the property. I still have work to do. I need to go and visit the comps, see what I could do with the business plan. But each step after that got better. The deal got better. Like I would go to the comps, and the manager there would be like, "Oh man, we just keep raising rents like nobody's business. We just have a ton of demand." And then there was a new highway, that had been built on the other side. It was all these different things that were coming to fruition. But the point of all that was, look, I never would have even gone after the deal if the broker didn't call me and convince me to go out there. So look, brokers get a bad rap from time to time that, look, they're trying to make a buck just like we all are. But he influenced me to take a closer look. And if he didn't do that, I never would have gotten that deal.
Yeah, and plus, but you guys connected. There was a connection there. And that's the key point that I think if people are listening to this podcast right now, that is the point, right? Like having that broker connection sometimes, because it's just not fair. The world's not fair. But that guy, he liked you, and he's like, hold on, this one's a deal.
Right.
And I need you to see it.
Right.
Right? And once you saw it, then you're like, oh, yeah, I see that it's an old ass building. The potential to raise the rents once I fix this thing up is through the roof, right?
Yeah, I credit that phone call, so, but had I not gone on the deal prior and spent the time with him, we wouldn't have developed a relationship.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless you're just out there. Yeah. So digging for gold, site visiting, all that stuff that you've kind of like, I call it the fundamentals, but that is the game, right? To get you, and it actually makes you more knowledgeable as you were going. The more and more properties you look at, the areas you look at, you start getting a feel for which parts of town are different, right? And which part of town you want to be in. Right?
Absolutely. And it's funny how your mind changes over time. I remember in like January of that year, I had a passive deal come over my desk, and I ran out to the property and was like, man, it's right next to some train tracks. I don't know if I want to do that deal. And I passed on the deal, right? And then it was probably 4 or 5 months later, I was driving deals that I was looking to bid on, and I just happened to drive by that deal. And I looked over and I was like, holy cow, like I would go after that deal right now. But 4 or 5 months ago, my mindset wasn't there. Like I was thinking about it in terms of, do I want to live there?
Do I want to live there? Yeah.
Right. Versus, hey, is there opportunity to, make a business case here?
What's the numbers, right? Don't fall in love with any of the property, just fall in love with the numbers.
Exactly.
Right. So from that deal, how much was that deal and how much money did you raise?
So that was 76 units. It was a $6 million purchase. We raised $2.5 million.
So how did your raise go? Like, how did you get that done? Because you started from, you had some money, but like I'm assuming you didn't want to use your money on this deal. You wanted to syndicate.
No. So, the duplex, my wife and I put like 50 grand in, and then here I am a year later, and it's a $6 million purchase, and we're putting in 100 grand. Right. And so we got to raise the rest of it. Well, first of all, I would tell listeners in today's market, if you're going after large scale multifamily, you will not win a deal unless you partner with somebody that has a resume, that has experience. So when I was in the multifamily mentorship group, and I still am in that group, not only was I building relationships with passives and brokers and vendors and, attorneys and property management companies, but also building relationships with senior people that would potentially want to partner with me. So when I got the deal, I reached out to somebody that I had developed a relationship with and said, hey, would you be interested in partnering with me? And he took a look at the underwriting. He knew where the property was. He knew that submarket. He was like, Darin, I'm in. But all that work was done prior. So you don't have time to build that relationship with the senior guy after you have a deal ready. You have to have that already in your back pocket. And I would tell people, people that reach out to me on Instagram or whatnot, I tell them, look, you need to have like 5. I don't know if the number is 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but I tell them 5, because you may call the one guy and that you think will partner with you all day long. And you call that person and they're like, man, Corey, I would love to partner with you, but I just agreed to partner on this other deal.
I'm in another deal, right?
And I can't do 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
And so you can't fault the guy, right? And so, well, you better have your backup ready, or else you're going to lose a ton of credibility with the broker if all of a sudden you've spent all this time, you're in best and final, and now you're saying you have to back out.
Yes. Totally yes and amen to yes. I love the part of being in networks, being in a group, finding a mastermind, being a part of we have our own education program as well, but like those things are the incubators, right? And there's always people that are there, and there's always the next level.
Right.
Right. And sometimes, and I think you said it best, Darin, is you latch on to a next level and say, hey, listen, bring me up with you. Beat me up, Scotty.
Right, exactly. Right? Exactly.
And it makes your deal so much easier, right?
Absolutely. So I partnered with a guy by the name of Raj Gupta out of Chicago. I don't know if you've ever run across him or not, but great guy, very experienced. And I pretty much run the day to day. And he's kind of like my board of directors, like, look, I said, he said, what are your expectations? I said, look, I need an experienced guy. I need balance sheet. I need credibility, but I also want to make sure that you maximize returns for our investors, and I don't want to make rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
And so most of the time, I go to him for any major decisions, and most of the time he's like, yep, Darin, run with it. Every
Did
now
Raj
and then.
help raise you money, or did you raise money more on your own?
So we did it together.
Yep.
We did it together, and I'd say probably half and half between in the group and outside the group. So like my personal relationships, maybe half, and about half from the multifamily mentorship group.
Yeah.
And you've been doing this long enough that I'm sure you know this, but the listeners may not. There's like two different discussions, two different sales processes with those two different types of people, right? So people that are in the multifamily world that are passives, they've been passives in other deals. They know how to look at deals. So they're
It's the smart money.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, Darin, I like you. I like your deal, but I've got 5 deals in my inbox and I could only do 1 this quarter. So why your deal over the other 4? That's their decision.
Because you
process.
like me, right?
Right. Exactly. They're
friends.
like, why is your deal going to make me more money than the others? The other, subset of people, the outside of the group, they're like, Darin, I know you, I like you, I trust you, but I don't know this multifamily world. Help me understand the risk. Help me understand how it works. There's more education there, more hand holding, but you don't have the competition of 4 or 5 different deals. You may be their only multifamily guy.
So, Darin, that's exactly what I like to teach is smart people, but dumb money. What I find what that is the stock market. Anybody that's got money with a financial advisor, listen, there's so many of them out there, right? I mean, there's so many people out there that are just normal working 9 to 5 and saved $1 million in it, got out of retirement or got to retirement. And now they're like, gosh, how do I make income?
Right.
And we're the solution. You're the solution.
Absolutely. There's so many people. Not only that, like when we talked about when I was working at ABN AMRO back in 2002 to 2006, when I was making great money, and I was in the corporate world, I didn't have time to chase these deals, right?
Right.
I would have loved to invest my money with somebody doing this with a sponsor. Hey, look, I'm making all this money. Let me just pass it off to you. You go out there and give me fantastic returns. But I didn't know anybody,
But
this
you don't
world.
know. Unless you know, you don't know, right?
Exactly. Until 3 years ago, I didn't even know about these private placement deals and how to invest in them. And so that's what, is great about your podcast and other avenues of trying to attract people and educate people that there's another way than just investing in the stock market.
Cool. Hey, and I'm going to make that for a time for a plug. If you're looking to get into multifamily investing, go to kahunainvestments.com and click the deal room.
There you go, my man. Look, the people should be reaching out to people that have been doing it. Don't be embarrassed by it. You're helping the next guy. 3 years ago, I knew nothing.
Yeah. So in a 3-year period of time, when you look back and say, man, what does that feel like?
A number of things. One is I wish I had started investing in real estate earlier, but I'm glad I'm doing it now. Secondly is take the first step. Listeners, take the first step, because I bought that duplex. The next deal we just talked about was a sponsor deal, GP deal. That was a $6 million deal. And then since that time, I've been a GP in 2 other deals. I was not the lead GP. I was a co-sponsor, but I was a co-sponsor on a $15 million deal and then $30 million deal that just closed in January, a 228 unit A-class property in Houston. And so I tell my wife, I'm like, this is crazy. In 3 years, I never, ever, ever could have imagined that I was a general partner in a
that you're going to play this big game.
$30 million transaction. It's crazy.
Those are crazy big numbers, right?
Crazy big numbers, but it's all about the relationships you build and your mindset, whether you believe that you can achieve it. And so just like you said, there's people that are pulling you up, right? Well, once you get up to that next level, well, then you're like, okay, well, what's the next level after that? And so that's fun. And then teaching the people below you, it's fun.
Yeah. Put a hand down, bring someone up one more rung up that, the rung that you were at, right? Hey, let me help you get to this next spot, right?
Absolutely.
The view's good up here, right?
Exactly.
So if you could you kind of give it, but I want to reward it in a different way too. Thinking about your experience and what you've learned so far, what would you tell anybody that's new that wants to get into the game? Like, what's your best piece of advice?
One is you have to believe in yourself and you have to make a decision that you're going to go after it. There's too many people that they're on the fence. They're like, I want it, but they're not committed to it. You got to commit to it. And the second thing I would say is everyone has value. So I have new people all the time that, like, I could hear it in their voice. They don't believe in themselves. They feel like, okay, well, I haven't done it. So who would ever want to partner with me? I don't have the money, or I don't have the experience, or I'm too young, or I'm too old, or, whatever the excuse is. Look, we all started with nothing. Like, we all started with our first investment. You could ask any seasoned investor out there and they can tell you about their first investment. And that first one led to the second, led to the third. So you have to take action.
Oh, love it. Any books that you've been reading? I see you've got a little library there that you would that's inspired you, or something the one you'd want to share.
Yeah, I love books. There's so many great books. One book that I would talk about is Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. I like that one because, and it's funny because I bought that book. It was a recommendation. I had it sitting on my desk for, I want to say 3 or 6 months, because it's like 600 or 700 page, like hardcover. It's intimidating. Like, if I open that thing up, it's going to take me forever to read it. But I finally opened it up and I read just the front part of it. And, Tim Ferriss said, look, I broke this out in 3 different sections and you don't have to read it in order. It's just 2 or 3 pages each of all the best podcast episodes I've had. And so I'd get my cup of coffee, I'd go in my office, and I'd read 3 of those stories. And literally it's 2 or 3 pages per story. But I felt like I was with the person he was interviewing. Yeah. And so it was a knowledge dump from all these really fantastic people.
Super successful people, right?
Yes, in all different walks of life. It's not a real estate book. It's, all types of different people, but you can learn from those people.
Dude. Darin, I just want to take the time and just say thank you for sharing such an amazing story. I think you're going to inspire a lot of people, because here you are, I would say corporate America, you could almost have golden handcuffs. You broke free of that. You started your own business. Then you found the bug of real estate, scratched your deal with the DUPLEX, said, no, that's not me, and went and jumped in full time, got some education, and now you're co-sponsor of a 30 million? Is that what you said?
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, gosh, in 3 short years.
In 3 years. It's crazy.
Darin, what does the future look like for you?
Sometimes bad things happen and you can pivot, right? And so last year, I lost a deal. I was runner-up on a deal that I thought I was going to win, a 200-unit deal in South Dallas. I pivoted and started a podcast. So I'm not at the caliber of Mr. Corey Peterson here, but I started one, summer of last year. And I've met so many great people through that process. And so I'm so thankful. So the future looks like I'm looking to grow that podcast. We just came out with videos on YouTube, and then looking to partner with more people. And now I got the bug to go after, I guess I am a kind of guy that likes to see progress. So, bigger deals, more deals, and I love to help the next guy. So.
Yeah, because when it's scary, that's when it's good.
Yeah, right? that's when the energy is and the juices are flowing. Like when you're doing something you haven't done before.
Cool. Listen, so if people want to get a hold of you and they're in your podcast, where do they find you, Darin?
Best way to find me is my website, DarinBatchelder.com. That's DarinBatchelder.com. You can find info on the website and other stuff there. I'm also on all the major social media platforms. You can message me there. Instagram is where I'm on most, so at Batchelder Darin.
Cool. Listen, guys, this episode's full of what a great journey and a great story that no matter where you're at in life, and Darin, you said it the best, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And that's what I say on every podcast. That's how I end every podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
I truly believe that is the one thing, the difference between success and failure. It's in between these two ears. It's what you think every day, guys. So go out there and make it your best.
Can I add one thing?
Yep.
I want to give you a plug for your mastermind, because look, if you have not joined a mastermind or a group of people doing what you want to do, you are completely missing out, because all of a sudden you're surrounded by people that encourage you and tell you can do it, versus your normal network of people who may be telling you, you know what, that's for other people, so there's a plug for you, my friend.
Rock and roll, man. Seek advice, seek from others that are doing it and doing it well, guys. You guys go out there and have a great day, and remember, if you believe it, you can achieve it, and your paradise is possible.